Quentin Tarantino canceled his final film? Well, sort of. The famous director previously announced that The Movie Critic would be his final film. Recently, though, he decided to table that project, at least for now. Tarantino's next film will be his 10th film, and he has said that he wants his 10th to be his last, and end his directing career on a high note. What the 10th will be is now a mystery, but what about the 9 he's already made? Let's take a trip down memory lane and take a look at his body of work, from the lowest grossing to the highest. In 1992, Reservoir Dogs premiered and changed cinema forever. This marked Quentin Tarantino's first feature-length film, as well as his lowest grossing. It grossed $2.83 million at the box office. Reservoir Dogs established elements of Tarantino's filmmaking that would follow him throughout his career. One of those elements? Moral ambiguity.
There's one character that a lot of people might think is the hero. I personally don't think he's the hero. All right, I think he's the bad guy.
And of course, more than a little bit of violence. Tarantino wrote and directed Reservoir Dogs, and the success of his first major movie only came after some struggles.
I never considered myself a writer. I've always considered myself a filmmaker who writes stuff for himself to do. And I had spent about 6 years trying to get other films off the ground with me as a director.
After struggling to find the success he sought as a director,
and out of frustration, I wrote Reservoir Dogs.
And this movie is proof to never give up on your dream. As for Tarantino's take on why this movie broke his bad luck streak,
and I think this was my time. I think this is a better movie than I would have made at 25.
With the help of a legendary cast, the movie made history.
I felt like we were doing something amazing, but it didn't mean that it would translate. I've never seen such confidence come out of a first-time director.
Of course, that confidence was deserved in the end. Death Proof made $31.1 million at the box office when it premiered in 2007. The film had a cast full of women, but Tarantino had no trouble writing for women, and it surprises him that other talented male writers do.
If you can only write about yourself, then you must not have that much imagination. It's kind of a writer's job to listen to people and hear people talk.
Yet Tarantino's knack for women characters goes beyond that. He has a lot of women in his real life.
I do have a little bit of an edge. I have a lot of female friends. I just feel comfortable around the camaraderie of females.
And clearly this edge paid off for more movies than just one, which brings us to Jackie Brown premiered in 1997 and grossed $39.67 million. Tarantino had a special muse for this film. He wrote it specifically for its leading lady, Pam Grier.
There's another white man lying his ass off saying, yeah, baby, I wrote a script for you.
Yes, he was a man of his word, and Grier was happy he was.
Working with Quentin was really a great experience because he's so inclusive and he's very curious about life in general, and especially women. And I didn't believe, it was for me. I actually looked for the smaller role.
In reality, though, she was the titular Jackie Brown.
It's true, ain't it?
Yet the movie earned Tarantino criticism on an aspect of the film that was important to him: pacing.
I would like it, though, if the critics who don't like it because they think it's too long. All right, what I'd like is at least give me the credit for, not making a mistake. I meant to do that, all right? I meant the movie you saw.
Tarantino really wanted to do pacing differently.
I'm really trying to pace a film differently than the average cinema is made. I wanted the film to truly have the feeling that I have when I read an Elmore Leonard novel when I'm finished with it. And that feeling is truly getting to hang out with the characters.
Of course, Jackie Brown was just the beginning of Tarantino's slow-paced films. Kill Bill Volume 2 premiered in 2004, marking the second installment of one of Tarantino's most iconic films. It earned $66.21 million, as well as plenty of great reviews. Kill Bill fans got to see the continuation of the bride's revenge story, but it had very few twists.
Movies are actually very different from each other, so it's actually kind of cool. Something having kind of validates it. Let's get rid of the crap and let's just have the confidence to, tell a revenge movie.
The original Kill Bill became one of the ultimate revenge films.
The second movie, now you've got the world, now you've got the setup, and now you get to know the character.
The second movie's character development and many iconic moments made for an equally classic revenge film.
You and I have unfinished business.
Baby, you ain't kidding.
The Hateful Eight premiered in 2015 and earned $54.12 million. However, it almost didn't come out at all. The script was leaked online in 2014, and Tarantino almost scrapped it as a result. Instead, though, he came up with a brand new ending to surprise the world. And despite criticism, Tarantino was more than happy with the film.
A lot of the critics that like me didn't like Hateful Eight. It all came down to the fact that it was just too rough a vision for them. It was just too cynical. It was too cruel. That's one of my favorite movies.
Kill Bill Volume 1 earned $70.1 million, premiering in 2003, just 1 year before the second installment premiered. Kill Bill was, of course, a revenge film, but it was also a history-making action film, and this was important to Tarantino.
Action scenes and stuff are the most cinematic that films ever get. And what I wanted in the case of Kill Bill is when you're watching it and that stuff kicks in, you're watching a movie, man. I want it to be like a concert.
Fans certainly weren't bored during Kill Bill. With an 81% Rotten Tomatoes score, it's safe to say Tarantino achieved his goal. And I know what you're thinking, but yes, the Kill Bills count as one. One film with an almost perfect Rotten Tomatoes score, Pulp Fiction, at 96%. Premiering in 1994, Pulp Fiction made $107.93 million. As always, Tarantino had an iconic cast in mind from the start, and they knew this movie would be something special.
He presented it to me and I read it. I thought it was one of the best scripts I'd ever read. Dark, but great.
John Travolta was right. Audiences loved the film, despite its intensity. And when Tarantino found out that one audience member even had a seizure while watching a particularly stressful moment in the film, he actually thought he'd done his job, despite the unfortunate result.
It's like too intense for human beings. That can stop people's heart, man. That's cinema.
Inglourious Basterds is another film that had quite an impact on its audiences. It premiered in 2009 and earned $120.54 million. In the film, Tarantino famously rewrote history, but the history of the film itself also had unexpected twists and turns.
When I started it years ago and started writing it years ago, I had a different storyline. And the reason I couldn't really finish it years ago was because that storyline was just too big. It just wasn't a movie. It could have been a 12-hour miniseries, but it wasn't a movie.
A Tarantino miniseries? We're interested. But of course, he modified the film to make it, well, a film. So it was only fitting that the idea he came up with to make the movie small enough to be a movie was to set it at a movie premiere. Funny how things work out. Django Unchained premiered in 2012 and earned $162.81 million. The film earned 92% on Rotten Tomatoes and rave reviews, but it wasn't without criticism. Concern over the frequent use of a racial slur in the period piece shocked and offended many audiences. Yet Tarantino and the cast seemed confident that the language was appropriate under the circumstance.
I don't think anybody is actually going out there saying that we use the word more excessively than it was used in 1858 in Mississippi. And if that's not the case, then they can shut up. It's my job to tell the truth.
Tarantino values the truth, but when it came to his 9th movie, he twisted it a bit to make for a happier reality. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood premiered in 2019 and became his highest-grossing film to date with $377.6 million. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood features fictional characters and interpretations of real people. But the real celebrities from 1969 weren't the only people who influenced the story. Tarantino's own memory of the year played a major part.
In 1969, I was like between 6 and 7 years old. And so the film became a big memory piece. Big part of my memory of Los Angeles at that time is being in the car.
Being in the car as a child with his mom and stepfather and listening to the radio changed how the movie played out. Almost like viewing the world from Tarantino's perspective as a 6-year-old this time, though. What's your favorite Tarantino film? What would you like to see him make next? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you're looking for more videos about the best movies of all time, we've got you covered. Just like and subscribe to The Things to stay up to date.